Welcome to the show. Welcome to Your Thought Life podcast. I am your host, Michael Anderson. If you haven't taken the time to leave us a rating and a review and you enjoy the content on this podcast, when you complete this episode, do leave a rating and a review. It helps us tremendously to reach others seeking this style of content. We get a bit of a bump from the algorithm. And thank you so much for this act of kindness. We certainly appreciate your support. Today, we're jumping into the science of overwhelm and how to manage it. I want you to picture this. Your phone is buzzing with notifications. Your inbox has 47 unread messages, and you have 3 deadlines this week. And someone just asks you, can you take on one more small project? That is a familiar sound for an awful lot of you. You have a lot on your plate, and people are always wanting to add a little more to it. If you're feeling like you're drowning, though, in responsibilities and you can't seem to catch your breath, you're in an abundance of company. It's just the way the work world is today for the most part, especially if you're a professional who cares about the work that you deliver for your employer, your constituent, your clients, etc. So today we're diving into the science behind overwhelm and, more importantly, some practical application steps to help you effectively manage this. The current disposition of mental health in America is being radically challenged like never before. There's research from Stanford University that reveals that when we're overwhelmed, our prefrontal cortex, the part of your brain that's responsible for decision making and rational thinking, actually goes offline. And when this happens, Dr. Daniel Siegel calls this flipping your lid, where your emotional brain takes over and we lose access to the higher level thinking skills. Now, you'll probably hear that and you'll go, nah, can't be. That's just way too much. How can we know that? Check this out. Studies also show that chronic overwhelm triggers the same stress response as physical danger. And this floods our systems with cortisol and adrenaline. And this would be the explanation as to why overwhelm doesn't just feel uncomfortable. It literally impairs our ability to think clearly and to make good decisions. When you understand this at a chemical level, then you can see why the previous statement where we talk about flipping your lid and the emotional brain taking over, you can see how that clearly happens. Anytime you have cortisol and adrenaline in high doses on the scene, you're in fight or flight mode, family. That is not the time to be creative, says Dr. Joe Dispenza. That's not the time for you to sit down and contemplate freely. That's a time for you to move blood to your extremities so you can run or you can defend. One of the two. So it's interesting that this psychological principle that we're talking about, also from a science perspective, is also noted as cognitive load theory, how the brain is able to enter into this mode and limits processing capability so that we can really focus on our surroundings, that whole emotional component I just made mention of. And you just got to know that when you're starting to feel an abundance of emotions and an abundance of feelings and you feel that fight or flight mode kick in, you just have to know that you are being mentally impaired, and it's all just part of your body, your brain, your mind protecting you. When you're in that mode, you cannot be your best. When you're in that mode for a prolonged period of time and you cease to be your best, and that becomes a pattern, that is one of the gnarliest patterns that you can find yourself in, or a loved one that you know can find themselves in, because it leads to heightened senses of anxiety, and that immediately trails into deeper levels of depression. So you need to understand the science of overwhelm so that you can manage it. Viktor Frankl is one of the coolest people I've ever had the opportunity to study. He was a Holocaust survivor and is also a renowned psychologist. And one of the things that he shares is when we are no longer able to change a situation, we are challenged to change ourselves. We are challenged to change ourselves. And this profound insight reminds us that even in overwhelming circumstances, we retain the power to choose our response. But you can't do that if you don't understand at a psychological and an emotional and a chemical level what's going on. Today, you break free. Today, you're able to change the types of responses that you consciously move forward with heretofore. I want to tell you that the key to managing overwhelm isn't doing more, working harder. There's a so-called hustle culture right now that really promotes this. And there's just absolutely no reason for you to grab hold of that. That is a surefire recipe for you to burn out and to enter into this very state that we're talking about, which again has two really ugly turns up ahead: anxiety, and if you get on that road, the next one is depression. So I want to encourage you not to slough off on your work, but to work smarter, right? And we're going to give you some ways that you can be more creative to support your natural mental cycles and subdue this thing we're calling overwhelm. Here's step one, and it's called the brain dump and prioritization method. I want you to write down everything on your mind when you start to feel these feelings of overwhelm. All the tasks, all the worries, all the ideas, all the commitments. And this external storage system, writing it down, it frees your mind from the constant thinking, which can lead to ruminating, which are some of the telltale signs that you are entering the zone of overthinking. If you're working on a computer, it's like closing different programs down. Once you've got them out of your head and onto a piece of paper, then you can use the Eisenhower Matrix and you can categorize these. You can take a look at which ones are urgent, which ones can be pushed. We can then start to have a more meaningful dialogue as to which ones are going to have impact in our lives in the next 24 hours if we don't prioritize those, and which ones won't. Effectively, we're able to then put some order around all of these thoughts, and creating a prioritized list will give us a sense of freedom, the sigh of relief, because now they're no longer just rumbling around in our head, right? Unorganized. They're on a piece of paper that we can use as a reference and a go forward strategy. Step two, it's the 2-minute rule with time blocking. If something takes less than 2 minutes, just go knock it out. Don't think about it. Don't wrangle with it. If you assess it's 2 minutes or less, go knock it out. Get it off your plate. Call that one done. Check off the box. But for everything else, assign a specific time block in your calendar when you're going to deal with it during the course of the day, if it's something that needs to be handled today or tomorrow or next week. Big idea here is once it's on the calendar, there is now a commitment that you have made to address that specific task. And research from Cal Newport shows that time blocking can increase productivity by up to 40% because it eliminates entirely decision fatigue. How's that? Well, we know exactly what we're doing. We have prioritized it first. We know exactly what we're doing and when. And so all of that unnecessary extra thought that we would be giving to this set of circumstances or this task list that we've created are gone. And we are now free to just execute. One caveat: you have to do what you say you're going to do. You have to show up for the meeting when you say you're going to show up. Because if you don't, your body knows that you didn't do your part. And what you're going to find is it's going to be exponentially harder for you to go through the exact same process again, because you have shown to yourself that you can't be trusted with a calendar entry. We're not that person anymore. Number 3, there's a psychological reset technique that I want to share with you. When overwhelm hits, I want you to use the 5-5-5 breathing technique. And what happens is you inhale for 5 seconds, you hold for 5 seconds, and you put your lips tightly together to create resistance, and you blow out entirely for 5 seconds. And if you can do this for 3 to 5 minutes and then look up, what you're going to find is that your nervous system, your parasympathetic nervous system, has literally settled down. The fight or flight response will also subside, which also means that the level of cortisol and adrenaline, depending on the situation, is going to reduce itself as well. And it's when you do this that you begin to understand things more clearly. Why? Because you're turning off the sympathetic nervous system, the fight or flight mechanism. And this breathing technique effectively says, hey, if I were in any trouble, I wouldn't be able to concentrate on my breathing like this. I would be in a panting sort of mode. Blood pressure would be elevated, pulse would be elevated, and the breathing would be shallow. And by you executing this breathing technique, it rewires you for the situation that you're facing and gets the cortisol, adrenaline down so you can think clearly. These 3 steps that I've shared with you today are a part of a scientific toolkit that is what I call known good, meaning it's been used for 50 plus years. It has all of the elements of science to back it. And if you can just commit these to your heart so that when you begin to experience overwhelm, you can remember why it's taking place, and you can remember these 3 techniques and how they serve you to bring you out of that mode, give you some order, get you some discipline, calm yourself down so you can move forward rationally. Remember, overwhelm is often a signal that you're growing and taking on meaningful challenges. So it's not all bad unless we can't control it, unless we can't manage it. Hence the topic for today. The key is learning to surf the waves of complexity in life rather than being swept away by them. And I trust that this was helpful for you. I've certainly enjoyed sharing it with you. And thank you for joining me for today's episode. Feel free to connect with us through our Linktree app. It's available in the show notes. I like to remind you that you are enough. You can do it, and you are uniquely equipped to realize your goals. Until next time, take care and keep managing your overwhelm.